In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this glowing moon in your nighttime sky. I'll be featuring new products from the fall and winter release from Fawn. This is a card I actually shared earlier in the week, but I absolutely love this moon stencil and wanted to show you how I use it. I know the Fawn release can be a bit overwhelming because there's so many amazing new products, so I'm trying to keep my supply list at a bare minimum. Two of the things I'm using for sure is the Fangtastic Friends stamp set and Fangtastic Friends add-on because I love these little bats. And also I'm using the Nighttime Sky stencil. I am stamping out my images onto 80-pound white cardstock in the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. I chose the images that I would want to put on my card, including these branches, which can be used in so many other scenes. Now, in my original card, I added a sentiment that was geared more towards Halloween, but this sentiment just says, "Have a very happy day." So even though it kind of has a Halloween feel to it, it doesn't have to be Halloween. You can even change up the colors of your background to be more bright and cheerful versus the nighttime sky. I am coloring all of the images tonight with my Copic markers, and I'm having all of those markers listed at the top of the screen here. Now, for my bats, I did get a little carried away. I have quite a few markers here, mainly because I was really just playing. I love having a lot of contrast to my images, so I did kind of go a little overboard, but I absolutely love the results. When I was originally planning out my card, I had kind of placed the stamps in an arrangement over the moon stencil so I knew where they were going to be on the front of the card. And that also helped me determine where my highlight areas were going to be. So for this bat, it's actually supposed to be hanging upside down, but I think he looks really great kind of right side up with his wings spread. So because I knew that one and where its placement was going to be, I put the lightest areas towards the top right. Now, these guys that are going to be hanging upside down from a branch, they are going to be more down towards the bottom right, which means the moon would have more of the highlight area towards like their feet area. So that's how I tried to determine where my highlight areas and my darkest color was going to be. Now, another thing, because I used so many markers in this, one of the reasons too was that I did have quite a bit of area to work with. So I was able to bring in more colors. And what I'm able to do with so many colors is I'm just adding a line of the darkest color. For instance, this bat, I'm just adding a very small line of color. Now, this second color, the E37, I'm not even really blending out too far. I'm going over that darkest color and just coming out a smidge. That's helping me so I'm not getting too carried away with those dark markers and I'm still leaving myself room for the highlight area. This color is going to be kind of my main color, and then the lightest color should be the least amount. So in my opinion, when I'm coloring, my darkest color and my lightest color are going to be the two least amounts that I use. Now for my branches, I needed to change up the color since I went with a brown with my bats, which the bats could be in so many different colors. There's different shades of purple and even blues that you could use for that or dark grays. But since I used browns, I needed to have a different brown color combination for my branch. I started out with a three color combination, but then I brought in the E18 because I just, compared to my bats, I really wanted to have more contrast there. Now for my little spider, I decided to make this one kind of a purple. So I did the BVs 0804 and 13. And then for my leaves, I wanted to have that dark contrast color, which is the G28, but I really wanted that bright green. So I used YG21 as my highlight color. Then I just grabbed a bright yellow from my Copic marker collection to add to the stars. Now I'm bringing in the coordinating dies and I wanted to show you Lawn Fawn has these magnet boards and I love them. They are very sturdy. They hold my magnets really well. So I wanted to just show you that really quick while I had my magnets out. So I die cut everything out with its coordinating die and set it off on the side to work on my scene. In this stencil, there are a few different pieces. There's kind of the spots for the moon, there's some clouds and stars. But what I did is took that circle for our moon and I centered it onto some 80-pound white cardstock. I held it down with some post-it tape and post-it notes. I couldn't find my post-it notes at first, which is why I have the post-it tape, just to mask off all those areas so I don't get anything in there right away. Now I am starting off with tumbled glass distress oxide ink and adding that to that circle. Then I'll remove the stencil and the post-it tape, and I'm going to take one of these spots for the moon. I'm going to place that back over it, add back in my masking around the edges. I'm an over blender, so I need to make sure I'm protecting the rest of my card. And I'm going back over those areas with tumbled glass, still the same color, just to kind of give it this tone on tone look and still show those spots on the moon. I'll remove all my post-it notes and post-it tape and then bring in the mask for the moon. Now, I love using these push pin magnets. I've had a lot of people ask me about them. I get them from Amazon and I'll have them linked down below, but they are great. They're super strong for the Make Art Station and they don't take up a lot of room. So I'm starting off by going around my moon with the tumble glass, not going all the way up to that moon mask. Then I'm bringing in Blueprint Sketch and blending around that. So I'm not coming in as far with the Blueprint Sketch as I did with the tumbled glass. Next, I have Seedless Preserves. Now, this one is more of an underlining color. You're not going to see it a ton, but it does just kind of give the background a little bit of a hue. And then I'm going to finish it off with Black Soot. So once again, going around all of those edges. So now to help smooth out the transition, I'm going to go back over those colors, starting with the Blueprint Sketch. If I lose that black soot at all, I can just come back in with it and just briefly go over the edges. But I'm going back through all of my colors. Now with the tumble glass, instead of blending in circular motions like I normally would, I'm actually following the shape of the moon stencil. Now, one other thing that I experimented with is using peacock feathers there instead of tumbled glass. It looks amazing. I kind of wish I would have did it here. Now I'm remove the mask and I'm going back over the area. You notice that I have that white line around my moon. I didn't mean to do that. That means I did not line up my mask very well. I honestly should have left it, but you know me, I can never leave things well enough alone. So I went over it with tumbled glass. Didn't like that. So I'm bringing in Yeti ink in the center of that to try and help make the moon pop a little more again. And then I brought the stencil back in and I'm going around the very outer edges of the moon with Salty Ocean just to try and help make that moon pop again once more. So at some point, I need to stop messing with this and just leave well enough alone. I'm really happy with it. I still absolutely love creating the nighttime sky. There's a few things I would have done differently, but I'm going to walk away from it. And I'm placing my moon mask back over that. And I mixed some of this Copic white with a drop of water, and I'm flicking that over my background to create stars. After I let that sit and dry for a little bit, I'm going to add this to a card base. So this is 4¼ by 5½, and I'm adding my panel to that white card base with a tape runner. I'm folding up a piece of Post-it tape to put inside so it holds my card shut while I work on my elements for the front of the card. I'm going through and aligning my images where I want them to be. And once I finalize that, which I already kind of knew what I was going to do, I'm taking those die cut stars and I'm going to add them to the front of my card using some liquid glue and my pickup tool. So I'm just going around and randomly adding them to my sky. And now for my branches, I'm going to flip those over and I'm going to attach those with a tape runner. The smaller items is what I use my liquid glue for. The larger items is when I like to use my tape runner. Then I'm going to take foam squares and add them to the back of all of my bats. That's what's going to be popping off of my card. Otherwise, right now, I don't have a lot of dimension to this. Then I can remove the backing of my foam squares and start placing my bats around my scene. So I have one bat that's going to be up in the top. I have these cute little ones that are hanging from a branch. And then this little guy that's just totally proud of his wings. Keep in mind with this moon stencil and even these bats, is that they really can be used at any time. You can create a beautiful moon rising scene or have some grass towards the bottom or put some trees and think of Christmas. How amazing is this moon stencil going to be when it comes to Santa flying in the sky? I am super excited to share more ideas with you. All of my supplies used today will be listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. I hope you enjoyed today's card project. Thanks so much for joining me.